When I saw the chance to travel to another country and learn how the education system worked there, and also it being Ukraine, I have Polish roots. I know that the Ukrainian geopolitical climate is of great concern to many Canadians. We have a large Ukrainian-Canadian population, and I felt like it was a great opportunity, and I wanted to seize it.
What were you expecting?
I think, I've got a political science background, so I had some preconceived notions about a Soviet-era education system, but I don't think anything could have prepared me for what Ukraine was really like, actually being there.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, the high school students had 23 subjects that they had to fulfill in 1 year. There was huge pressure placed on them, not only from the teachers, but from their family members. Students were sometimes coming home at 10, 11 p.m. at night from tutoring. They were doing homework until midnight. And this was all due to I would say, in my humble opinion, the pressures that was placed upon them by the adults who had just spent, the time in Maidan, years of fighting to get into the EU. This is a very big opportunity for Ukrainians, and I think the mixture of having the Soviet-era education system and this new added pressure of Ukrainians wanting to strike a new identity amongst the European Union, I think that the students are under a lot of pressure. And then you add in the Soviet-Ukraine conflict, and you have 18 to 27-year-olds being conscripted and drafted to enlist in the military and serve. I think that Canadians have it very easy. I think we're blessed. I think that there's a huge dynamic of parental input and, the obligation of the teachers and the administration to adhere to those professional conducts. Whereas in Ukraine, I think it's a little bit more old school. I think there's a lot more rigid structure and expectations put on the teachers. Whereas in Canada, there's a lot of communication between parents and teachers. I got the impression that in Ukraine, the teachers had the end all and the say. So you would come into the classroom and all the students would be standing in front of their desks. They wouldn't have pulled a book out, they would just be standing at attention. And I'd come in and start talking, hey, how are you today? What's going on? And everyone's just standing there frozen. And it took me, it must have taken me a few days of teaching 8 classes a day until I said, or 5 classes a day, sorry, until I said to them, please be seated. These simple things that in Canada you don't ever see. You've literally got to pull a fire alarm to get the kids' attention sometimes, and I don't mean that literally, but there are drastic differences.
Tell me more about the UN conference, the UN forum that you had.
And the students really loved the idea. We had a core group of about 30 or 40 students that showed up twice a week for training. Then students from other schools started coming, and then a delegation from Lithuania showed up too. And it was amazing. So we had over 50 students for a 2-day conference held at UKU on their campus. We were given an amazing facility, photos to come, I'll show you those. And we discussed human trafficking, and we did border security and forced labor. And those were our 2 topics. And Ukraine has some genuine, concerns in those areas. And I think just the world at large. And so there was a digital conference that they were going to be performing, competing in the Model UN, but outside of the Luman that we held on human trafficking. And one of the teachers asked me to train them for this. And I said, what better way than to run a conference? And the rest is history.
Tell me, how were the students engaged in this UN conference?
Oh, it was fantastic. They were so engaged. They researched their respective countries' positions on this international issue. They worked collaboratively and self-regulated. I didn't have to ask them to do this. They worked collaboratively to find a solution and through a solution-based methodology, which is the whole purpose of diplomacy and multilateralism. So they knew what their countries already believed on the matter. They knew what resolutions they'd already been a part of. They helped form new, tangible, sustainable ideas and solutions to the issues. And they spoke in all English, which for many of these students was a first. And we had just amazing, stupendous students who stepped up. I don't want to mention any names, but some young men and women. It was a young woman who took first place, and her speaking, her parliamentary procedure, her substantive notes and input to amendments and working papers and draft resolutions was paramount in the success of the committee. We not only passed a resolution on topic A, forced labor, but the next day came back and then drafted another resolution on the second topic, which historically in the Model UN is very rare.
What did you come back with after your experience in Ukraine?
I came back with great hope. I think that our future, our children, our students are acquiring knowledge and are critical thinkers and are problem solvers that are unfortunately going to have to solve the problems that we've arguably created for them. And I think that they're more than capable to do so. So I came back inspired and believing very much in our future.
Thank you.
Thank you.